I would like to invite now Pathikrit Payne as our last speaker on the session.
So that the excitement still remains. I'll try my best. I'll give you one example, and I want to tell you one thing, that if this war has to be fought, this war has to be fought on the basis of information. Because what these intellectual journalists and intellectual, terrorists, they do is based on one thing. They give you selective information. Now, I'll tell you one incident which happened in 1979 and which none of these news channels whom we know for what the pseudo work they do will ever show you. These communists and all these so-called secular parties tend to claim that they work for the poorest of the poor of the country. In 1979, there was a massacre in Bengal. And the massacre happened in a place called Mari Jhapi in Sundarban in West Bengal, where hundreds of Dalits were massacred and their bodies were dumped into the river. And this was done by none other than the left front government of West Bengal then. So today, if you want to see what is happening in this country, take two examples. Number one, if you see the Arab Spring which happened in the Middle East, in which started something around 2011, it started with universities. In Syria, it was started in universities, and it was spread from one university to another. And when the government there tried to take action, suddenly there was this entire campaign started across the world that Assad is such a brutal ruler. However, Syria was perhaps one of the most secular countries in the Middle East. And suddenly you had what? Everybody in Syria had guns to fight against the Assad regime. And when they started the civil war against each other, you had ISIS coming in, you had Al-Nusra coming in, you had Al-Qaeda related organizations coming in, and within 4 years, Syria today is a destroyed country. So today the choice for us is not just about whether we will, counter it or not. The choice for us is whether we want to be a Syria or not. Okay? And remember what the left-front government can do and what this communist can do. Go to Bengal, they have destroyed systematically 4 institutions of democracy. Number 1, education. Number 2, healthcare. Number 3, police. Number 4, administration. Today you will never find, or rarely would find, somebody from Gujarat or Punjab or Tamil Nadu or Maharashtra going to Bengal for a job. It is always the other way around. And most of the terror attacks in this country today, you would have somewhere a Bengal connection. Somebody coming from Bangladesh through Bengal, somebody having some kind of a shelter in Bengal. And that place has become a hub for illegal infiltration. It has happened for 34 years, done by none other than the communists.
Still continuing.
And it's still continuing. So today, if you look at what is happening in this country, JNU is just an eye-opener. But if you see, it is a pattern. When 2014, the government of Narendra Modi came in, if you remember, there was this huge controversy and campaign which was started as if the government is so much anti-Christian. There was a rape which happened in a place called Ranaghat in Bengal, and a Christian nun was brutally, gang raped, without any investigation, without any kind of first information. Who was accused? The RSS and the BJP. And then it was found out that 6 of the 7 people who were involved in that were Bangladeshis. And the moment that information came in, that news was stopped from being shown. Then what happened? A similar incident happened in Faridabad, where it was said, look, upper caste people have killed a Dalit family, 2 children were burnt alive. It kept on happening. Everybody was showing at how intolerant India is. And then when the forensic report came of FSL, that the fire was started from inside and the door was bolted from outside. Nobody showed it again. Nobody apologized for the mistakes or the wrong information that was being shown. So there is a pattern, and you see, in the last 1 year, more than 15,000 NGOs in this country have been banned, including some of the major NGOs that their name and which are known to be front organization of global intelligence agencies. And the more number of these NGOs gets banned and blacklisted for not showing what they are doing in this country, You will see more of these agitation starting. You will see more of these on the basis of caste, on the basis of something, some kind of propaganda would start. Suddenly somebody will write in New York Times, and then they will call some diplomats for some interview in some news channels, and it will be shown that, look, this country is not safe enough for Make in India program. And 2 years down the line, these same people will tell you, Narendra Modi failed in his Make in India program. So please understand the pattern. This is not an isolated incident. JNU is not an isolated incident. What I was reading in the newspapers, Umar Khalid had plans of having this kind of agitation across 18 universities. And in universities, when people, after doing their, say, higher secondary, when they join for graduation, many of them don't understand global issues. Many of them don't understand national issues. They were more concerned about Manchester United and all that stuff. And suddenly when they come and hear all these things, and they think that nobody is protesting, the government is not doing anything against them, that means they must be saying the right thing. That means perhaps Afzal Guru was not a terrorist. That means perhaps Indian army is at fault. So this perhaps keeps on entering their mind, and then it becomes a viewpoint. So there are three kind of wars which are fought. One is a conventional war for which the army is fighting, and you have veteran soldiers, you have people who are present here who have fought for this country. And there is another kind of sub-conventional war which is against terrorism. A conventional also the army is fighting, that is also the central police forces are fighting. And the third is the intellectual war, which is aimed at destroying the willpower of the country to fight. They have already been successful in doing one thing. Today, if you are a Hindu, and if you say that I'm a proud Hindu, people will say, oh my God, you're so communal. How can you be proud for being a Hindu? By closing down thousands of factories and by killing 55,000 people, which is considered just political murders. So don't think that you are against or you are up against a weak force. It's a sinister force. The communists of China taught the Chinese how to love China. The Soviets taught, the Russians taught themselves how to love Russia. Our communists learned how to love China and Russia, but not their own country. I think you people know what was the role of the communists in 1962 war. Okay. So when you talk about how to break this, there were certain people who were asking how to break this. First question that should be asked is what are these people at the age of 29, 30, 31 doing in universities? At the age of 23, Pawan Kumar, a captain graduating from National Defense Academy, was leading a special force unit and leading from the front, and you have people at the age of 30 with a laptop in one hand, with a smartphone in the other hand, with a classic mild and a Levi's jeans saying that Pujibad Murdabad. Can you find a bigger hypocrite than this communist? There cannot be a bigger, hypocrite who uses Facebook and say I'm against capitalism. I'm telling you, I think a lot of you people, your previous generation were victims of partition. My father, when he came from East Pakistan, he worked as a daily wage earner, a laborer while doing his education. He didn't raise his voice against the country. Had I been in the place of Kanhaiya Kumar, I would have first of all prepared myself to become a good person who can earn money for the family, and if then possible, I would have preferred to become an entrepreneur to create employment for 10 more people. Some of the best filmmakers, scientists, entrepreneurs, industrialists, sportsmen, soldiers have come from extremely poor family. They don't do Pujibad Murdabad, Sangbad Murdabad in JNU. Ask Narayan Murthy and his contribution to the country. Ask Dr. Kalam. So the question is, if you do not change the ecosystem of the universities, and if you allow these people to thrive at the age of 30 to 30, because the left, the communist mentality and the communist culture thrive in this kind of environment, where for 216 rupees you can do your education throughout the year, and for 11 rupees or 12 rupees a month you can stay at a subsidized, pretty good accommodation in a city like Delhi, where something like that would cost you nothing less than 10,000 outside. So if you create an education system where you're accountable for what you have been taught and the money that is being spent on you, then these people will not be there. You will not find this kind of system being there in the IIMs. Why? Because there is accountability. And if you do not create this accountability, then you would have more Kanhaiya Kumars and Umar Khalid coming out smoking, classic mild and using the laptop to say Hindustan Murdabad and capitalism Murdabad. You will never find a communist leader going around in a cycle. They all use Tata products or some other products or private sector manufactured products. So I will request, I would want a government to change the ecosystem. What kind of research somebody at the age of 31 doing in JNU? Are they doing the kind of research that happens at Stanford or Harvard? Or MIT? Make it a point that we have this education system which we have inherited from the British. And in the British system of education of 10 plus 2 plus 3, where you are a graduate, after 15 years of formal education, your post-graduation or your PhD completes in just 3 years' time. In UK, you get 3 years' time. I did my post-graduation in Singapore. You get 3 years' time to finish your PhD, not 10 years. So if you don't change the ecosystem, things will not change. That's the most important thing. And I would not take much more time, beyond this. But please understand that you are fighting against a force which has infiltrated into our universities, into our schools, into our newspapers, into our news channels, into our films. While we were the ants, slogging it out, working to create a $2 trillion economy, they were the grasshoppers, thriving like parasites on the money that we pay as tax. To do what? To destroy us from inside. A soldier cannot fight if his morale is down because people for whom they are fighting start abusing. I once met a soldier who was posted in Srinagar. And he told me, those days I was a little bit into journalism. He said, "Sir, stay in my place for 2 months. Either of the two things you will do. You will either shoot someone out of frustration, or you will shoot yourself." And you see the number of suicides which are happening in the Indian Army, in the CRPF. Why is it happening? Is it because they don't have amenities? They have it. But if you constantly get abused in the media, you constantly get abused in Kashmir for those people for whom you are fighting it up, you cannot take that. You cannot take that. You can have a bulletproof jacket to protect you from a bullet. But if you get pelted by stones from morning to evening, then you prefer to give up either the job or the life. And that is the real problem of this country today. I don't look at it as whether I'm doing some kind of a part-time, time I have, so let's go for a conference and speak something. No, we should think about what are we going to leave behind for the next generation. Sometimes I feel scared as to when my kids will grow up, what kind of India will remain if we don't speak up today.
You're right, that's true.
Unfortunately, again I'm saying this, I'm not trying to boast, don't think it that way. In Singapore, every conference that happens over there, they talk about two countries, India and China. most of the time. And they try to look up to this country. I'm talking about the time when I was there, 2010-11. The world looks up to us, but look at us. Our biggest enemy is not outside, it is inside. And as a lot of speakers today, eminent speakers said, if you look around, you can understand why this country was subjugated for centuries. Because something is wrong with us. There was a small proverb I saw somewhere. There was a movie called The Rise of Hitler. And it says that the only thing that is needed for the rise of the evil is for the good man to do nothing. So, it's a long drawn war. Today, there are say around 100 people here. Go out, talk to 20 odd people whom you know. Speak to them, tell them, and let it be growing exponentially. And if it doesn't grow exponentially, unfortunately, things are not going to be good. So you are fighting it out against a very sinister enemy, and that enemy is not going to give up soon, because a lot of people are upset with the stoppage of corruption and the insider trading of lot of things that is to happen in this country. A lot of people are upset with the banning of the NGOs. A lot of people are upset because their ecosystem in which these parasites is to thrive is slowly getting destroyed. So let me tell you one thing, that more worse is going to come. This is just the beginning. And if you don't want to make India a Syria, then remain prepared. Because Syria is the example of what they actually can do. Today, the Syrian does not have the right to decide what should happen inside the country. Go to Google, find out photographs of Homs, Aleppo, Raqqa. These were some of the best cities of Middle East. Look at them today. The Syrians don't decide, the Americans decide, the Russians decide, the Saudis decide, the Iranians decide as to when they would have a ceasefire inside Syria. Do we want that in this country?
No. Never.
If you don't want that in this country, then we have to stop what is happening in the universities, because it's all started in Syria from universities. That's the weakest point. I would rest my case here. Thank you.